Get out right now or I'll call the police! My son bought this apartment for me. Those were the first words I heard when I came home. Not hello. Not where have you been. Not even a guilty silence. Just my mother-in-law standing in the middle of my living room, wearing my robe, drinking from my grandmother's mug, and ordering me out of the apartment I had bought 3 years before I ever married her son. For a few seconds, I thought exhaustion was playing tricks on me. My flight from Portland had been delayed twice. My neck hurt from sleeping upright in an airport chair. My suitcase wheel had cracked somewhere between baggage claim and the parking garage. It was raining hard in Nashville, and all I wanted was to step into my own home, take off my shoes, drink water from a real glass, and sleep until morning. Instead, Evelyn Whitmore stood in my living room like she owned the walls. She wore my satin robe. Her hair was wrapped in hot curlers. Red lipstick stained the rim of my grandmother's white ceramic mug, the one painted with blue violets and chipped on the handle. That mug was not expensive, but it was priceless to me. When I was 12, I dropped it and cried because I thought I had ruined it. My grandmother Ruth glued the handle back on and told me, "Pretty things with chips still hold coffee, Nora. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Now Evelyn held that mug like it was just another thing she had decided to take. I looked around and felt my stomach drop. My family photos were gone. The picture of my parents was missing. My sister Sophie's photo was gone too. Even the picture of me from the day I closed on the apartment had disappeared. My soft cream pillows had been replaced with stiff embroidered cushions. A lace cover hung from my dining room chandelier. A wooden sign that said "Home is where Mother is" leaned against the wall where my abstract print used to be. The whole apartment smelled like Evelyn's perfume, old roses, powder, and entitlement. I let go of my suitcase handle. "Evelyn," I said. "Do not Evelyn me," she snapped. "You heard me. Leave. This is my home now. My name is Nora Bennett. I was 31 years old. I was separated from Evelyn's son, Blake Whitmore, and I was standing in the doorway of the downtown Nashville apartment I had bought with my own money before I ever met him. Blake had not paid the down payment. He had not signed the deed. He had not fixed the floors, bought the appliances, or covered the mortgage. Blake had lived there because I allowed it. That was all. "I think you are confused," I said, keeping my voice low. Evelyn laughed like she had been waiting for that line. "Oh, sweetheart," she said. "You really have no idea what is going on, do you?" I looked past her. Gossip magazines were scattered across my coffee table. A half-eaten lemon cookie sat on one of my coasters. Blake's old law school mug was beside it, even though he had dropped out after one semester and still talked about law school like destiny had merely been delayed. "Where are my things?" I asked. "Stored? Where?" "Somewhere safe." "Evelyn." Her eyes narrowed. "You abandoned this place, Nora. You ran off to Portland to play nurse for your sister and left my son alone. Blake made a decision. He decided someone stable should live here. Stable." Evelyn Whitmore calling herself stable was like a match calling itself a fire safety expert. "Blake made a decision about property he does not own," I said. "My son bought this apartment for me," she snapped. "He signed papers. You have no right to come in here dragging luggage like some cheap tenant. This is a family residence now, and you are no longer part of this family." She stepped closer. "You were never good enough for Blake. You thought making money made you a wife. It did not. A wife supports her husband. A wife does not humiliate him by acting like she is the man." There it was. The old one with fresh lipstick. Blake had said softer versions of that for years. In public, he made jokes. "Nora is the CFO of our marriage," he would say when I paid the bills. People laughed, and in the beginning I laughed too. Then the jokes changed. He called me controlling when I asked about his spending. He said I cared more about spreadsheets than love when I refused to fund another business idea with no plan behind it. But he never mocked my bonuses when those bonuses renovated the kitchen he proudly showed to his friends. Evelyn looked me up and down. "You're trash?" she said. "Expensive trash, maybe, but trash all the same." Something inside me went very quiet. I had expected to come home alone. I had expected to cry because even though Blake and I were separated, this apartment still carried memories from before our marriage became a battlefield. I did not expect his mother to stand in my robe, drink from my grandmother's mug, and call me trash in my own living room. But sometimes the end of patience does not feel like anger. Sometimes it feels like peace. A final door closes. You stop searching for kindness in people who have been showing you exactly who they are. I set my second suitcase beside the first. Then I placed my garment bag carefully across both handles. Evelyn smirked. "That's right," she said. "Take your little bags and go." I reached into my purse and took out my phone. "Building security," I said when the front desk answered. "This is Nora Bennett in Unit 12B. There is an unauthorized occupant inside my apartment threatening me. Please come up immediately and bring the building manager." Evelyn froze. only for 1 second. But that second told me everything. She did not truly believe Blake owned the apartment. She was only hoping I would panic before anyone checked the paperwork. I smiled for the first time. "You have 2 minutes," I told her, "to grab your purse and walk out on your own." She laughed in my face. That was her mistake, because less than 2 minutes later, Evelyn Whitmore was standing in the hallway without my grandmother's mug, shouting at security, while Blake still had no idea that the real disaster had not even started. That came later, when I opened his locked file drawer. But before I tell you what was inside it, you need to understand Blake. Blake Whitmore did not look like a liar. That was his talent. We met at a charity finance panel where I was one of the speakers and Blake was between ventures. Later I learned he was always between ventures because his ventures ended when bills arrived. In the beginning, he praised the exact things he later punished me for: my discipline, my savings, my career, my independence, and especially my apartment. I bought Unit 12B when I was 27. It was not glamorous then, but it was mine. I had saved for years, skipped vacations, taken extra projects, and signed the closing documents with my hand shaking. When the keys landed in my palm, I cried in the elevator like a woman receiving citizenship in her own future. Grandma Ruth had left me $5,000 for inspections and fees. In her will, she wrote, "For Nora, who notices things. Use it to build something no one can take from you." I framed that line and kept it in my bedroom. Blake loved the apartment the first night he saw it. "This is our future," he said. I should have noticed that word. Men reveal themselves in pronouns. Back then, I mistook it for romance. After we married, I added him to the building access list because he was my husband. I did not add him to the deed. I did not refinance with him. I did not turn my premarital apartment into marital property because I had been raised by practical women and advised by a terrifying real estate attorney named Morgan Stone. Before the wedding, Morgan tapped one red nail against the property acknowledgement she had prepared for Blake to sign. "Love your husband," she told me. "Do not donate your premarital asset to the marriage because he looks handsome in linen." Blake signed easily, too easily maybe. He was generous with signatures when he believed documents were just formalities and charm was the real law. For the first 2 years, we were mostly happy. Mostly is an important word. It means the bad things are still small enough to explain away. Blake's spending was optimism. His resentment was stress. His mother's intrusions were love. His habit of joking about my career in public and asking for money in private was insecurity I believed I could soothe. Evelyn was a problem from the beginning. She criticized my home, treated Blake like a misunderstood prince, and treated me like the temporary administrator hired to mismanage his comfort. She mistook politeness for weakness, silence for ignorance, and patience for permission. The separation began quietly. Blake's newest business idea involved private real estate investment. Although the documents he showed me contained more slogans than numbers, he called it community wealth architecture. Morgan called it a fog machine with invoices. I asked questions. Blake got defensive. I asked for bank statements. He accused me of not believing in him. Then I found a credit card opened in both our names without my knowledge. The signature looked like mine if you were standing across the room in bad lighting. That was the first night I slept in the guest room. 2 months later, Blake moved into a short-term rental to give us space. What he really wanted was my apartment's comfort, my money's safety, and none of my questions. Morgan drafted a separation agreement. Blake signed a property access acknowledgement confirming he had moved out and would enter my apartment only with written permission. "Nora," he said, rolling his eyes, "you are so dramatic with paperwork." Morgan answered before I could. "Yes," she said. That is why she still owns her home. A week later, Sophie called from Portland. She had emergency surgery, then complications. She needed help. I left for 6 weeks. Before I left, I unplugged appliances, gave an emergency key to the building manager, Priya, and removed Blake from the entry list. Or so I thought. While I was in Portland, Blake and Evelyn moved in. By the time security arrived that night, Evelyn had tied my robe tighter and lifted her chin like she was about to testify in court. Andri, the first guard, was broad-shouldered and calm. Dana, the younger guard, kept one hand near her radio and both eyes on Evelyn. Behind them came Priya, the building manager, dressed in her navy blazer and holding her tablet. Priya had the kind of calm that made shouting look childish. "Emmons Bennett," she said. "Are you all right?" "Yes." Evelyn snapped. "She is trespassing." Priya turned to her. "And you are?" "I am Evelyn Whitmore, Blake Whitmore's mother. This is my residence." Priya's eyebrows rose by exactly 1 millimeter. It was devastating. "I see," she said. Evelyn pointed at me. She left. "My son gave me permission to live here. He owns this apartment." "No," I said. "He does not." Evelyn turned on me. "You do not know what papers have already been signed." That sentence stuck in my mind. What papers have already been signed? Interesting. Evelyn was not clever enough to lie smoothly. When she was angry, she leaked truth. Priya tapped her tablet. Unit 12B is owned solely by Nora Bennett, she said. Purchased before marriage. No recorded transfer. No co-owner. No lease or occupancy agreement for Mrs. Whitmore. Evelyn's face reddened. Blake has rights. This is his marital home. Blake Whitmore is not listed as an owner, authorized resident, or approved occupant, Priya said. And Miss Bennett has requested removal of an unauthorized person from her property. I am his mother. Mrs. Whitmore, your relationship to a man who does not own this unit is not relevant. I almost applauded. Evelyn tried outrage first. Then tears. She said Blake had promised her this. She said I was punishing her because my marriage had failed. She said decent women handled family matters privately. Priya waited until the performance got tired. Mrs. Whitmore, she said. You may collect your purse, phone, medication, and shoes. Any additional belongings can be retrieved later by appointment with Ms. Bennett or through legal counsel. You will not remain in the unit tonight. Evelyn's eyes hardened. They are papers. She hissed at me. Blake will fix this. You have no idea what you are interfering with. There it was again. Not what Blake promised me. What you are interfering with. I filed that phrase away. Andre and Dana escorted her toward the bedroom, where she had apparently moved her suitcases into my side of the closet after shoving my clothes into laundry baskets. I did not follow. I did not trust myself around the sight of my life treated like spare storage. 5 minutes later, Evelyn returned in her own clothes, clutching her handbag, phone, and makeup case. She had left my grandmother's mug on the coffee table. Good. If she had tried to carry it out, I might have discovered a temper after all. At the door, Evelyn turned back. You're trash, she said again, but weaker this time. I looked at Andra. Please escort the trash out. Dana coughed into her shoulder. Priya's mouth twitched. Then the elevator doors closed on Evelyn's fury. The moment she was gone, I locked the door and leaned against it. I was not crying. I was not shaking. Not yet. I was listening. The apartment was quiet again, but it did not feel peaceful. It felt violated. My furniture was still there, but every room looked ashamed of what had happened inside it. Priya softened her voice. Nora, she said, no Ms. Bennett now. Do you want us to stay while you look around? Less. I hated how quickly the answer came. We walked room by room. In the bedroom, Evelyn had put her things in my closet. My shoes were in baskets. Grandma Ruth's framed message was face down on the dresser. My jewelry box had been opened, though nothing obvious was missing. In the kitchen, Evelyn had rearranged my cabinets. That nearly broke me. Not because cabinet placement matters in some grand moral way, but because a home is made of small certainties. The mugs are here. The plates are there. The olive oil is beside the stove. After betrayal, reaching for a glass and finding bowls instead can feel like the whole world saying, you were gone too long, and other people made decisions. Priya photographed everything. Security wrote a report. I changed the locks while she stayed as a witness and revoked every visitor permission connected to Blake and Evelyn. After Priya left, I pulled the lace cover down from my chandelier and threw it into a trash bag. Then I went into the second bedroom. Blake had used it as his office when we were together. He loved expensive pens, leather notebooks, and productivity systems with names that made him feel important. He believed stationery could lend competence by proximity. The bottom drawer of his desk was locked. Blake never locked anything unless he thought there was still time left to enjoy the lie. I took my backup keys from the safe. The third key opened it. Inside were folders, old bills, investor decks, a half-finished loan application, a copy of our separation agreement with coffee stains on it, and under glossy brochures for something called Whitmore Equity Partners, I found a blue folder labeled Transfer to Mother. I stood there while the room seemed to narrow around me. Then I opened it. The first document was called a Limited Property Authorization. It supposedly gave Evelyn Whitmore occupancy rights to Unit 12B as resident manager during my temporary relocation for work and personal reasons. At the bottom was my signature, or rather it was a stolen version of my signature scanned. Lifted. Pasted from an old refinance packet. The ink density was wrong. The angle was off. The pressure was missing. Blake had never understood that a signature is not just a shape. It is rhythm. It is movement. It is the hand telling the truth even when words lie. The second document gave Blake authority to communicate with building management, utility companies, and insurers about family-controlled residential matters. Family-controlled, my apartment. The third document made me sit down. It was a business credit line application. Applicant Blake Whitmore. Business Whitmore Equity Partners LLC. Asset support. Family-controlled residential property, downtown Nashville. Estimated value much higher than market. Property contact Blake Whitmore. Secondary authorized resident Evelyn Whitmore. Owner consent attached. Attached. My forged signature. Blake had not managed to transfer ownership. He was not that skilled. But he had tried to create confusion. Enough confusion to make my apartment look connected to him and his mother. Enough to support a credit application. Enough to impress potential investors. Enough to create delays if I discovered it too late. Behind the application were printed emails to investors Blake had written about: secured residential asset backing, family, held real estate leverage, and temporary capital bridge against downtown property position. Not once did he say that the property belonged only to his estranged wife. Not once did he say I had no idea my home was being used to prop up his failing business. I read every page slowly, not because I needed time to understand, because anger moves fast, and I wanted to be exact. This had never been about Evelyn needing somewhere to stay. That was the performance. That was the distraction. The real plan was leverage. Move Evelyn into the apartment. Create apparent occupancy. Use forged documents to make my home look family-controlled. Send the file to a lender. Send confident emails to investors. If I came home later and objected, Blake could drown me in marital language and emotional chaos. He thought I would spend days fighting with Evelyn. He thought I would focus on the insult and miss the system underneath. Blake had always underestimated what I did for a living. I was a consultant. I was paid to walk into chaos, find the structure, and identify where the money was leaking. I photographed everything, every page, every email, the folder label, the locked drawer, the forged signature beside a real signature from my saved records. Then I called Morgan. It was almost 9:30 at night. She answered on the fourth ring. "Nora, I need your litigation voice," I said. "I have several. The one that makes men regret paper." "I'm listening." I explained everything. Morgan did not interrupt. She listened the way surgeons cut, cleanly and with total focus. When I finished, she said, "Do not call Blake yet." I was about to. I know. That is why I said it. "Send me everything first." I sent her the photos. A few minutes later, she called back. "Nora," she said, "this is not just domestic stupidity. I know. This is potential fraud, forgery, unauthorized use of property, bank misrepresentation, and possibly securities issues, depending on what he told investors. Do you know if the credit line was approved?" "Not yet." "Good. We move before he corrects the lie." She told me to preserve the originals, write a timeline, send everything by email, and not let Blake inside. Then I called him. He answered on the second ring, already irritated. Did my mother calm down yet? I almost admired the confidence. "No," I said, "but security did. Your mother is out. The locks are changed, and I am holding the fake occupancy papers and your fraudulent credit application." The silence stretched. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Not into apology, into fear. "Nora, do not overact. Too late. I am not reacting anymore. I am filing. You went through my drawer. In my apartment. That was private. So was my signature." He tried to explain that the lender only needed asset context, not a lie-in or transfer. "Fraud with formatting?" I asked. "Stop using that word." "Fraud? Forgery? Unauthorized property misrepresentation." His breathing changed. "Who have you told?" "Not I am sorry. Who have you told?" "My attorney," I said. "The bank is next. You will destroy me." "No, Blake. I am refusing to protect you from what you did." He said we were still married. I reminded him that marriage made his forgery worse, not better. When he said he was on his way, I told him not to come. "This is my home," he said. "No, it was a place you lived because I allowed it. That permission is revoked." He threatened to claim it as his marital residence, so I reminded him of the separation agreement he had signed, confirming he had vacated and had no ownership rights. His silence sharpened. He had forgotten that document. Men like Blake always forget the documents that work against them. "I'll see you soon," he said. "No," I replied. "You'll see security." Then I hung up. Blake arrived a little after 9. Priya called from the front desk and said Blake was in the lobby with Evelyn. "Let him up with security," I said. "And please save the hallway camera." "Already done." Before he reached the 12th floor, I put Morgan on speaker and locked the deadbolt chain and secondary latch. The blue folder sat on the entry table. Grandma Ruth's mug had been washed and placed safely on the top shelf. The elevator dinged. Blake knocked hard enough to shake the door. "Nora, open the door." Through the peephole, I saw him in his Navy crisis blazer. Evelyn hovered near the elevator. Andrea and Dana stood nearby. "No," I said. "You are making this much worse than it needs to be." There it was again. Not his forgery. Not his mother in my home. Just my reaction. "I sent the documents to counsel," I said. "They are going to the bank's fraud department and your employer's ethics office." His face changed. "Why would you do that?" "Because you forged my signature and tried to use my property." A Morgan's voice came through the speaker, calm and lethal. "Mr. Whitmore, this is Morgan Stone, counsel for Nora Bennett. You will not attempt entry. You will not contact the bank further. You will not represent any interest in Unit 12B to any lender, investor, insurer, family member, or third party." A Blake stared at the door. "You have your lawyer listening?" Yes, I said. Evelyn shouted. She is his wife. No, Mrs. Whitmore, Morgan said. She is the sole owner of the apartment you were removed from earlier this evening. Your relationship to her estranged husband does not create property rights. It creates noise. Blake tried one last time. That apartment is my marital residence. No, Morgan said. It is her premarital property, solely titled with documented ownership history, a signed property acknowledgement from you, and a separation agreement confirming you vacated voluntarily. Silence. Different this time, broken. That was the real shock for Blake. He realized that I had built my life in ways he could not easily take over. The home was mine. The records were mine. The proof was mine. And now the timing was mine too. Evelyn began crying. Where are we supposed to go? I looked through the peephole at both of them. That, I said, is the first practical question either of you should have asked before trying to steal my apartment. Then I walked away. Blake stayed in the hallway for 11 more minutes, calling and texting that we needed to talk privately, that his mother was humiliated, and that this could ruin everything. He did not write, "I am sorry," not once. Eventually, security made them leave. Only after the hallway went silent did I sit on the floor and shake. That is what people misunderstand. Calm is not the absence of fear. Calm is what you do with fear when there is work to finish. I shook for exactly 4 minutes. Then I stood, opened my laptop, and wrote the timeline Morgan requested. The next few weeks did not unfold like a movie. There was no instant arrest, no dramatic confession, no judge slamming a gavel 5 minutes after the truth came out. Real accountability is slower than that. It moves through emails, certified letters, frozen applications, legal filings, recorded calls, and people suddenly discovering that paperwork matters after years of mocking it. Morgan moved fast. The bank froze Blake's credit application pending investigation. His employer, a mid-sized investment advisory firm where he had recently been hired, opened an ethics review after receiving the documents and investor emails. Blake left me a voicemail calling it a misunderstanding meeting. I forwarded it to Morgan. She replied with 3 words. Helpful, keep everything. Evelyn sent me a handwritten note 2 days later. She wrote that emotions had run high. She wrote that Blake told her arrangements had been made. She wrote that if there was confusion, it was between husband and wife. She wrote that a decent woman would have handled it privately. She did not apologize for wearing my robe. She did not apologize for using my mug. She did not apologize for calling me trash. I sent the note to Morgan. Helpful, she wrote again. Blake tried charm, guilt, nostalgia, and then threats. Flowers arrived at the front desk. I refused delivery. He texted that his mother had cried all night. I replied through Morgan. He emailed a honeymoon photo and wrote, "We were happy once." I did not respond. Then he wrote, "If you ruin my reputation, I will make the divorce hell." Morgan replied, "Mr. Whitmore, future threats will be attached as exhibits." He stopped threatening and writing after that. The apartment took longer to feel like mine again. Evelyn lingered in tiny violations. A moved lamp, a drawer rearranged, a missing spoon, my linen closet smelling like her sachets, a prayer card tucked inside a cookbook I never used. I spent nights putting things back and realizing I was not only restoring a home. I was proving to myself that I had the right to touch every object in it. Sophie came down from Portland as soon as she was cleared to travel. She arrived with a cane, a duffel bag, and the expression of a woman ready to commit crimes on my behalf despite recent surgery. "I cannot lift anything over 10 pounds, she announced, "but I can supervise vengeance." "No vengeance," I said. "Fine, strategic restoration." Together, we replaced the pillows, rehung the photos, took down the wooden signs, and found my abstract print hidden behind the washing machine. Sophie held it like a rescued animal. "Poor thing," she said. "Kidnapped by beige people." I laughed for the first time since coming home. The divorce filing became official 3 weeks later. Morgan filed for divorce, property protection, attorney's fees, and preservation of financial records. She attached everything: Blake's property acknowledgement, the forged documents, the bank application, investor emails, the building report, hallway camera notes, and Evelyn's handwritten note. Blake's attorney called it a marital misunderstanding with no intent to defraud. Morgan read the response, removed her glasses, and said, "Do you know what weak men love calling women?" "Crazy," I asked. "Besides that, vindictive." She smiled. "Correct. It means you found the invoice. Discovery did what discovery always does. It turned over rocks. Blake's business was worse than I imagined. Whitmore Equity Partners was less a company than a collection of confident PDFs. He had taken consulting retainers from acquaintances. He had borrowed from Evelyn's retirement account. He had used my apartment's estimated value in multiple pitch documents. He had mentioned access to downtown residential equity during investor calls. He had not secured a lion, thank God, but he had created enough false representations that several people wanted answers. His employer terminated him within a month for ethics violations connected to outside business activity and misrepresentation of personal assets. Of course, he blamed me. "You did not have to send it to my job," he said during mediation. We sat in a conference room with bad lighting and a mediator who looked like she had seen everything and been impressed by none of it. Blake looked tired, less polished. His confidence had become something he had to remember to put on. "You used my home to support a business lie," I said. "I was trying to fix things. You were trying to use what I built without asking." "I was under pressure?" "So was I said. "I did not forge your signature." The mediator cleared her throat. "Mr. Whitmore, this process will go more smoothly if we avoid minimizing language." Blake looked away. That was when I understood something important. He was not truly sorry. He was ashamed of exposure. He was afraid of consequences. He missed access. He missed my competence, my home, my reputation, and my ability to make chaos manageable. But he did not yet understand that he had violated the most sacred thing I owned, not the apartment itself, the life I had built before him. During a break, Blake approached me near the coffee station. "Nora," he said quietly, "did you ever love me?" "Once, I had. Or I had loved who I believed he was. The man who danced with me in our half-renovated kitchen. The man who brought me soup when I had the flu. The man who seemed proud of me before my strength became inconvenient." "Yes," I said. "I loved you." His eyes softened as if he had found a door. I closed it. "But you loved what my life could do for you more than you loved me." "That is not fair." "It is exact." Evelyn's reckoning came from an unexpected place. Blake's older sister, Grace. Grace lived in Charleston and usually kept her distance from family drama. She called after Morgan sent formal notice about Evelyn's attempted occupancy. "Nora," she said, "I owe you an apology. My mother said Blake bought her a condo and you threw her out because you were bitter." I repeated some of it before asking questions. "What change?" "She asked me to store 4 boxes from your apartment," Grace said. "One box had your name on the inventory label. I am not a lawyer, but I can read." Grace also told me Blake had called asking for money. "I told him no," she said. "That surprised me." "He said you ruined him." "What did you say?" "I told him a man ruined by documents should have read them first." Grace later provided a statement confirming Evelyn had admitted Blake arranged papers so she could move in before I came home. People like Evelyn often confess to the wrong audience because they assume loyalty means complicity. The divorce finalized 9 months after I found Evelyn in my robe. I kept the apartment. It had never seriously been at risk once the records were clear, but hearing the judge confirm it still felt like air returning to a room. Blake accepted responsibility in a civil settlement for attorney's fees, attempted unauthorized property representation, and financial misstatements. The bank withdrew the application. His investors pursued their own remedies. Some consequences were no longer mine to monitor. Blake also signed a permanent acknowledgement that he had no ownership, equity, access, or claim to Unit 12B. Morgan called it the paper version of changing the locks. Some victories belong in files, not on walls. On the day everything became final, I came home alone. The apartment was quiet. My apartment. The floors gleamed. The green guest room looked beautiful in afternoon light. My photos were back on the console. Grandma Ruth's mug sat safely on its shelf. My cabinets were arranged by my hand again. The chandelier held only light. No lace, no dust cover, no insult. On the island sat a small trash bag. Inside were the last remnants of Evelyn. 1 embroidered pillow, 2 sachets, a chipped decorative angel, a lace dolly from under the guest bed, and the wooden sign that said "Home is where mother is." I carried the bag downstairs myself. Andre was at the front desk. "All done?" he asked. "All done." He nodded toward the trash room. "Need hoe?" I said. "This one is mine." I took the trash out. A few weeks later, Blake asked to meet. Against Morgan's advice, I agreed to one public conversation in a cafe near Centennial Park. Blake looked older. Consequences rarely make people unrecognizable all at once. They set off the shine first. "I wanted to say I am sorry," he said. I waited. "I am sorry I forged the documents. I am sorry I moved my mother in. I am sorry I tried to use the apartment. I am sorry I made your home feel unsafe." It was better than I expected. Not complete, but better. "I thought that because we were married, what you had was partly mine to solve my problems with," he said. "I thought the paperwork was just paperwork." "It was protection," I said. "You should have known that then." He swallowed. "I was jealous of you," he said. "Off the apartment, your career, your certainty. The way people took you seriously. I told myself you were cold because it was easier than admitting you were capable in ways I was not." "Your jealousy almost cost me my home," I said. "You know that as a consequence. I need you to understand it as a violation." His eyes grew wet. "I violated your life," he said. There it was. Not enough to undo anything. "I hope you become someone who never needs to shrink a woman to feel like a man." I said. Then I walked away. I did not need more. That evening, I hosted dinner in Unit 12B. Not for Blake. Not for Evelyn. Not for anyone who believed my home was a resource to be reassigned. Sophie came. Priya came. Morgan came with expensive wine. Grace came with peach cobbler and apologized for being related to Evelyn, which I accepted as both unnecessary and reasonable. We ate under the chandelier, which held only light. No lace, no dust cover, no insult. At one point, Sophie lifted Grandma Ruth's mug. To pretty things with chips, she said. Everyone raised a glass. Later, after they left, I stood by the windows overlooking Nashville and thought about how people like Blake and Evelyn do not take your life all at once. They move in through assumption first. A key, a joke, a drawer, a bill, a mother in your robe. A signature copied from one page to another. They rely on confusion, guilt, and domestic pressure to keep you focused on the insult while they take the structure underneath. They count on you wanting to seem reasonable more than you want to be safe. But I had been raised by a grandmother who glued chip mugs and told me not to let anyone question what still held. I had built my life carefully, and when they tried to take it, I did not scream. I did not beg. I called security. I called my lawyer. I opened the drawer. I kept the proof. And when Evelyn called me trash, I took the trash out.